Hi everyone, pleasure to connect with all of you today. My name is Tapendra. I'm founder and CEO of SecureBlink. So in today's session, we are going to talk about the future of application security and what are the key challenges which are faced by the organizations. So let's start with the agenda. So we'll be covering up the topics which are related to what is application security, why the application security is important, the type of application security, the common application security flaws, and what are the application security tools which is being used by an organization, and what are the key challenges which are still in organizations are facing in terms of application security, and the best approach the application for the application security, the current and the future one. So let's first start with the what is application security. So application security is a process of developing, adding, and testing the security features within the application to minimize the security vulnerabilities. So it is just like that we are adding the multiple layers to an application so that we can make it proof, like we can make it like secure from all the external attacks. And whenever like an hacker will going to try to penetrate those applications, they need to pass through the multiple security layers. So this is how like we are improving the overall security of an application, and this process is known as an application security. So where we are like identifying the early stage of vulnerabilities, and then we are reducing and we are eliminating those vulnerabilities with the approaches and with the different kind of like the products and the tools that we're going to use. So why the application security is important. So let's start with some couple of sets that we have captured mainly from the Flexera, Micro Focus, and the White Hat Security, which says that the 60.5% of the applications vulnerabilities are remotely exploitable. 42% organizations experience an external attack due to an application security flaws. 79% of the organizations push the vulnerable code to the production either regularly or occasionally. So this is like mainly taken care by the organizations which are like early stage or which are like in the medium stage, because those in those organizations they don't have any security teams, and maximum of the development deployment work is taken care by only the developers. And if they by mistake push the any kind of a vulnerabilities which are associated in their code, and if they push it in the production environment, automatically it is making them more vulnerable of getting a cyber attack. Then 42% of the vulnerabilities in the applications are SQL injection errors, because even in today's time, a lot of enterprises applications and small medium business applications are using the previous stacks. So they are more prone of getting the SQL injection attacks. Then 83% of the applications are still found to remain vulnerable after the initial scan. Simple like if we start with the initial kind of a scan, because scanning is just not the one process. It's just like a very basic process which the company and organization just follow. But after that also like they are again will be remain vulnerable of getting a cyber attack. And 50% of the apps on an average like they found vulnerable because they didn't adopted DevSecOps approaches. So this is a trend like a graph that we have created from 2009 to 2020, and which says that shows the rapid increase in the vulnerability, the open source vulnerability. And if you can see like from 2019 to 2020, there is a drastic change that we have got, because in today's time, like organizations are including a lot of third-party libraries in order to make their applications more robust and to provide the best user experience to their customers. And in order to do that, they are basically following up with a lot of third-party libraries, and which is automatically making them more and more vulnerable of getting a cyber attack. So the top security flaws that we have captured, which has been covered by, reported by the Veracode and CWE MITRE. So MITRE is a framework which is like followed by all the enterprises. And it says that in the common flaws, if we talk about, these are the popular common flaws which have been found in the application. It starts with the information leakage, which is coming up like at 64%, then the cryptographic abnormalities, which is like 62%, then CRLF injections, the code qualities, insufficient input validation, cross-site scripting attack, directory transversal, then credential management. And if we go for the top 10, like the top 10 CVE, which is being given by the MITRE for this year, for 2021, which starts with the out-of-bound write, which has the threat score of like 65.93, then cross-site scripting, which is like 46.84, then out-of-bound read, which is 24.9, then improper input validation, that is 20.47, then OS command injection, that is 19.55, SQL injection 19.54, then use after free path tran- transversal, then the cross-site scripting, Progress and unrestricted upload of a file in a dangerous type. So all of these detail, like if you wanted to know what these terms mean, so that is like widely available over the CB imagery websites, and you can just go there and you can just search about these terms to get a more detail about it, because here we can't like cover all the topics at once. So I'm just giving you an outline of like the top secure application security flaws which has been followed by which has been like experienced by the in today's organizations. Then moving to the next, we are talking about the type of application security. So the application security is mainly divided up into the five types, which starts with the critical infrastructure and security, where we are talking about the applications which has been used in the critical infrastructure, mainly with the power grid, with the electricity segments, and with the nuclear reactors. So all of these critical applications, they are again like the cybersecurity is required in that, because they are handling those critical infrastructure. Then moving to the next, then we have the mobile and web application securities, which is related to all the mobile applications and web applications that has been used. Then the network securities, again the network securities plays a very important role, because this is the first contact, the first entry point for an hacker, and if he gets anyhow the credentials of the private network which has been used by an enterprises or an organization, they can definitely enter into their database. Then the cloud securities are there, which has been like in today's time, maximum of the applications are getting deployed over the cloud, so they need to follow the various kind of approaches to adopt those securities. Then the IoT security is there for all the IoT devices. So what are the application security challenges which the companies are facing in today's time? It starts with the inherited vulnerabilities, like some of the code that they are using and reusing it. So the vulnerabilities are getting inherited from the previous codes, okay, or from some like the third-party libraries, which again making them more and more vulnerable of getting a cyber attacks. And the second, we have the third-party and open source vulnerabilities and dashboards and software supply chain attacks, which have been recently experienced by the lot of big organizations, mainly based out of US. Like if we talk about the Colonial Pipeline, if we talk about the other hacks which has been taking place in the recent months, so they are all like affected by the software supply chain only, which is the one of the highest challenge for an organization in today's time. Then the vulnerability detections are there, because still the organization doesn't have the robust solution in order to detect the vulnerability in their runtime environment. And the API security is that again plays a very important role, because if an organization have some endpoints which are publicly available, and if they don't like deploying any sort of a security in that endpoints, then automatically like the hacker can easily access those customer data sets. So what are the application security tools? So these are the popular tools which has been used by an organization. It starts with the static application security testing, then dynamic application security testing, then interactive application security testing. These three approaches are mainly followed by all the pen testers, the cyber security and others, and they start with the application testing while following these three approaches. So then we have like the software composition analysis. This is something a bit new, because here we are analyzing all the components of that software, and we are then drifting up and finding out the vulnerabilities which are associated to a very code level of an application. Then the new approach, like a lot of tools are being offered by an organizations which are basically providing up the application security testing as a service. So the application security trends. So basically, the raise that we have seen post-COVID, like in the new normal, the organizations are now moving towards the cloud. Like they are not at all going forward with the on-premises servers, which has been followed by the previous approaches. In the post-pandemic time, now the people like they have adopted a hybrid model of working from home. So definitely they need to move their applications to the cloud. So the rapid movement of an application and the rapid cloud adoption of an organization is automatically like it's at the scale which we have seen in the past couple of months. Then the runtime application self-protection. This is also again being followed by in the terms of trends in the application security. Then we have the runtime application self-protection (RASP). This is one of the most popular approach which has been followed by the recent CISOs, CIOs, and the security analysts. Then the backend as a services, where we are like companies are following a very robust approach in today's time, where they are giving they are created a backend as a service. So they are deploying the microservices there, and they are utilizing those services in the secured environment, which is much more secure practice comparatively to the traditional approach of deploying a monolithic architecture. Then we have the monitoring tools which are available mainly for the public and private clouds. Every cloud companies have those monitoring tools available. If it goes from AWS, from GCP, from Microsoft Azure, everyone have the monitoring tools available. And even like a lot of other third-party companies are also offering, which we can directly connect with those cloud providers, and we can monitor all the traffic, the inbound and outbound traffic of an application. Then the web application firewalls, they are basically the previous approach, which is mainly like followed by an organization. They just deploy the firewalls, and then the function as a services, again it's a serverless model which has been followed by an organization. And application workload protection, this is pretty much new, because in today's time, even what the hackers are doing, they are basically like using the memory. They are creating, like deploying the memory based kind of attacks, which are very difficult to figure out or to detect by the traditional application security scanners. And this thing we can like easily detect if an organization is using any sort of tool which is based out of like workload protection. So then, in the last, we will be talking about all the approaches, the current approaches and the future approaches, which is being taken by an organizations for the application security. So the current approach, if we talk about, is like they are adopting the advanced application security frameworks. They are creating the code, the secure code. They are monitoring the complete code, and they are checking like whether it is like not coming up from any sort of from the third party popular forums. Then implementing the security as a design. This is like one of the most recommended approach, which even I do recommend from my end, and which the organization need to follow whenever they are designing or developing any kind of a product. They need to implement the security as a design, so that at every stage it should get into those security layers, and which automatically will make the hacker work pretty much harder. Then integrating a security into the development, the software development stages, where we are like deploying, testing the CI/CD pipeline that we are talking about. So we're integrating the security in that part also. Then using the latest web technology. So it is basically like organizations need to adopt all the latest technologies which for developing up their application, whether it is mobile, IoT, or web applications. Try avoiding the previous techniques or the previous technologies which are not getting any frequent updates, because those frameworks and approaches are more getting more vulnerable of getting a cyber attack. Then regularly they need to update their softwares with the recent patches and the recent updates which are being rolled out by an organization, because they are very important and they contain a very important security critical threat, critical like updates. Then the future approaches, so arrange and prioritize the application. This is going to come up in the future approach, where we are prioritizing that which application and is more important in an organization, and which is handling the more critical data. Then data should be encrypted. We need to verify all the third-party libraries that has been used in an application. Then we need to use some more advanced artificial intelligence-based tool in order to find the zero-day vulnerabilities, because this kind of vulnerabilities are like maximum of organizations are getting affected of these vulnerabilities, and it's like give them a very less time to just revert or to take any kind of action against it. And before to that only, like the hackers do their work and they just take their complete that data, or whether they just start with the ransomware kind of attack, or after doing an encryptions. Then securing all the public APIs that has been used in their applications, and using the automated remediations approach, which are automatically making an applications more better in terms of cyber attack. Then the application security testing and orchestration. This is like one of the newest approach, which the organizations, they seems like they will be definitely adopting it in the coming future. So these are the some couple of ways, the previous ways and the new ways which organizations are following. And by that, like definitely you can somehow you can like make your applications less prone of getting a cyber attack. So that's all from my side. And if you have any questions, you can connect me over the LinkedIn or the Twitter. My username is Tapendra Dev, and I will be happy to take any further questions. Thank you, and thank you, American Digital Week.